Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and we're sitting down to talk about Baldur's Gate 3, so you know it's about to be a damn good day. You know, it's funny. I've been playing through Baldur's Gate 3 again on the low throughout all the other videos I've been making, just chipping away at a little bit of a Dark Urge playthrough, and I am stunned by how different this playthrough has been compared to my initial playthrough, but that's what makes a Larian game so special. As someone who loved Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, this is what I've come to expect from the team, but they really over-delivered with Baldur's Gate 3. I delivered my final verdict video in December of last year, where I talked about the game in a post-patch 5 world. So I got to experience my first playthrough with that epilogue. I got to experience it with a lot of the Act 3 bugs fixed, and I was all the better for it. But since then, there's been a lot added to Baldur's Gate 3, with the most recent patch adding in new evil permutation endings, as well as like new romance options and different types of kissing. And on top of that, they also added an in-game mod support, which is fantastic. It adds new classes, new ways to flavor up your playthrough, new custom characters. You can change Wither's name to Bone Daddy now. So there's a lot there for you to check out when it comes to the mods for Baldur's Gate 3, and it seemed like that was the sign-off for Baldur's Gate 3. I feel like I've heard Larian 3 different times say, hey, we're done supporting this game. They've made it very clear no paid DLC of any kind is coming to the game, no expansions. They were working on something like that, but then stopped it because it didn't feel right. There's no Baldur's Gate 4 from them. Okay, we hear you. We respect it. They open up a new studio. Makes a lot of sense, right? But all of a sudden, here comes patch 8. And this is apparently, and I can only say apparently because sometimes I have trouble believing Larian can pull away from this game fully, but this is apparently the final patch for the game. So we're going to read through all the new features it brings to the table, and it's no small see you later patch. There's new subclasses here, new features like crossplay, and I want to get into all of it in this video. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, and you're interested in what's going on with Larian, I mean, we do talk about them whenever they make a little bit of noise, so consider subscribing.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
PC gaming is absolutely booming. When you look at even recent numbers on the Steam charts, at one point 2 months ago, over 38 million active users at one single time. It's so much taking over that developers are finally all bringing in their games to Steam. And why is that? Well, you can thank your favorite console manufacturers who are making very high-priced systems, and also some getting rid of exclusivity, which makes people go, why don't I just get the best option on the market right now in PC and gradually upgrade that? That's why I want to tell you about Apex and their current Black Friday offer that's going on until the start of December. Right now, if you hop on their website, you can get up to 28% off select PCs of many a build. There's the Apex Silver, the Apex Gold, the Bronze, and all of these fall below $1,000. Apex also has a great custom laptop section if you want to look into that as well. These computers come packed with top-of-the-line RAM, CPUs, GPUs, everything you need to get started. But let's say you're watching this video after the fact. Matty, I missed the sale. Well, good news, you can still use the code Matty at checkout and get 10% off. So you're saving either way. And shout out to Apex for being a multi-month partner of the channel. Love their stuff, and I hope you check it out. It's really good. It writes here in the Steam update, but before we bid Faerun adieu, in search of stranger shores, we have one more major patch waiting around the corner. Arriving next year, this update will introduce some of the most eagerly waited features to BG3 in crossplay and photo mode, along with 12 new subclasses. So let's take a look at patch 8 in full. Crossplay. Whether you're joining PS5 players from your PC or jumping into a game with Mac users from your Xbox, Baldur's Gate 3 multiplayer will soon feature full cross-platform progression, including crossplay, just as the gaming gods intended. Once the update is live, you'll be able to invite your friends to join your crossplay lobby directly regardless of platform, and find available multiplayer lobbies with friends on other systems using the Larian network. This is actually really well timed in my personal friend group because I had some friends who were actually coordinating a Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, and one of them's on Xbox, one of them is on PC. They're like, I don't know. My PC friend was trying to figure out if he could borrow another friend's Xbox to start up this co-op playthrough. Now they're just going to wait for this update because now they're going to wait for crossplay. This is excellent. Low-key, Larian makes the best co-op games in the industry. I've been saying that since Divinity Original Sin 1. I just feel like having the reactive worlds they have and playing them alongside a friend is sneakily like the best co-op gaming experience you could have. I know a lot of my co-op memories and many others were defined by games like Gears of War, and they still have a big place in my heart, but for me, big reactive worlds like a Baldur's Gate 3, playing that online with friends, I know you miss out on a little bit of the companion stories and interactions, but I think it's a worthy trade-off for all the memories you build through their games. So to kind of have that unlocked, Unchained is great. It's available on Xbox, PlayStation, Mac, PC, it's good to go. And hopefully like a Switch 2 eventually. I think that would be the next set of Baldur's Gate 3 news we eventually get to make sure that's available everywhere. The player count for Baldur's Gate 3 has continued to be insane, and I think it's only going to go up now with this latest patch when it drops, because everyone can play with everyone now. The big thing though that caught my eye and made me want to make this video in the first place was really that they're adding 12 new subclasses to the bunch here. And I think this is significant. They say patch 8 will introduce a new way to play your favorite class, adding one new subclass for each of the existing Bard, Barbarian, Cleric, Druid, Paladin, Fighter, Monk, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard classes in the game. Expect new abilities, animations, VFX, summons, and cantrips, and unique voice dialogue lines for the Oathbreaker Knight with written reactivity for Oathbreakers, along with a touch of homebrewing on certain actions to enhance your role-playing experience. And that's what I just want to preface this all with, is a lot of these subclass actions that they're bringing into the game, I think just add another layer of complexity to your character. In particular, we're going to get into the Rogue, which really enhances the idea of a pirate playthrough. And I think that's what, combined with the mods that Larian provides here, makes for a really exciting video game where you can truly be who you want, react how you want, kill who you want, and especially as Dark Urge, a bloody mess in the camp for sure. It's crazy, man. So yeah, just a lot of reactivity here, a lot of choices, and they're providing more. So let's start off with the Bard, which is the College of Glamour. They say, as a College of Glamour Bard, you'll find you have the power to heal friends and command enemies in equal measure. Cast Mantle of Inspiration to bestow your allies with 5 temporary hit points, and should an enemy attack while it is cast, they'll find themselves charmed. Play your hand correctly and you'll be able to use this to your advantage with the Mantle of Majesty. Target charmed enemies and you can command them to flee, move closer, freeze, drop to the ground, or drop their weapon. I think the beautiful thing about a Baldur's Gate 3 is there's many play styles I know very little about. You know, you get that experience through like building out your companions, or in my case, in my co-op playthrough last year, you know, just seeing my friend build out a druid and kind of learning more intimately the class through their play style. But here, there's just some, like the Bard, which is like, oh, I didn't really mess around with Bard at all. Like, I don't know if it's good or bad, but there's a whole new layer and way to play that same class that someone may have already played. Like, that's really exciting to me. You have the Barbarian here with Path of Giants. They say, opt for the Path of Giants, and your newfound giant strength will make it easier for you to yeet friend and foe alike. Forget chugging potions to pump those muscles. These barbarians benefit from the Giant's Rage passive that grants both strength and size, allowing you to deal additional damage with throw attacks. Pockets weighing you down, not for you and your increased carry capacity. I don't remember having issues with carry capacity in this game. I remember picking up a lot of food, bringing it back to camp, eating it to make sure the energy was doing good for my team, making sure the health was doing good for the team. But there's also the Cleric. It says Death Domain. As a Cleric of Death, you'll find a new dark few tricks up your sleeves. From spells that specialize in necrotic damage to 3 new necromancy cantrips. This includes Toll the Dead, a cantrip that causes 1 to 8 damage when your cleric rings the bell of impending doom, a number that scales if your target has already been damaged. We've also added the homebrewed ability to explode nearby corpses, damaging enemies. I just love this. I love the idea of your common healer archetype in general, like a cleric. You know, you think light magic and stuff. It's like, no, you can just blow up corpses. Oh, they took damage. That scales your necrotic damage on this one cantrip here. I love this game, man. I love what they're adding here. Let's keep going through some of these subclasses. Druid, Circle of Stars. These druids look to the stars for answers, accessing powers beyond those offered through the classic wild shapes. Taking one of the 3 starry forms for their power, the constellation of the Archer, Chalice, and Dragon, each one favors a different playstyle and strategy. The Archer deals radiant damage with astral hours. The life-giving Chalice restores hit points to you and others nearby. And the Wise Dragon allows you to deal damage with an added bonus to constitution rolls. The starry forms offer not just a celestial aesthetic, but practical, powerful options to enhance your role as a healer, fighter, or strategist. I don't know if anyone agrees, but I think Druid's like low-key, extremely busted, very versatile, very good early game in my experience. I will say, as someone who did a Gloomstalker Assassin build, you are weak, squishy sauce in the start of the game, but by the end game, I was carrying because I would do like 6 attacks in my opening turn, and it was the most empowering power curve I have experienced in an RPG in this last year. But I think the Druid is just so flexible with the amount of options and abilities at their disposal. So to give them more of that is crazy. Then we have the Paladin, Oath of the Crown. You've been sworn to uphold the principles of law. Stay true to your oath, and you'll be rewarded with the power to aid your allies and disrupt your foes, guide your companions in battle with righteous clarity, taunt enemies with strategic interrupts, and keep your party standing strong with divine allegiance, absorbing their damage while restoring their health. I will say, even in my newest playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, you kind of know what to expect in certain encounters, but the game's still tough early on, so to have things like this, granted you get your subclass around like a level 2 to 4, if I'm remembering correctly. So still you're fighting through a little bit of that early game grind, but this sort of offsetting of damage is really good. For the fighter, they have the Arcane Archer. Mastering the dual arts of magic and marksmanship, the Arcane Archer subclass offers unique skills on top of new shooting animations. Banish foes to the Feywild, removing them from the battlefield for a turn, or unleash psychic damage that forces enemies to make a wisdom saving throw or be blinded until the start of their next turn. This is something I really like here as well. The reason I do like this is because you're taking the fighter class, which is really good up close, and you're also giving them ranged options. So if someone wants a more versatile fighter, you now have that option at your disposal. So more flexibility, more build options, and obviously individual builds are really important, but I always try to think of it on a team composition level, like what build's going to work well into the rest of my team. Like how can other party members set up this character well, where the fighter maybe doesn't have to exactly endure all of the damage up close, and they can kind of hang back for a fight if they can, say, for example, take advantage of like higher ground, which is super important in really any recent Larian game. But nonetheless, we have the monk up next, Drunken Master. Putting the brew in homebrew, as the Drunken Master, you have the ability to consume alcohol straight from your inventory, as well as drink from bottles you see around the Sword Coast in order to recover ki. By sharing the bottles with your enemies using Intoxicating Strike, you'll generate a buff towards your armor class and your chance to hit drunk targets. Drunk enemies are also susceptible to the Drunken Master's other abilities like Sobering Realization, which sobers up drunk targets, dealing physical and psychic damage. So now, as a monk, you can make enemies drunk and then take advantage of them being drunk. I just think that's brilliant, man. Like, it really is, as I said in my Final Verdict video, and I know it's been said ad nauseum, it really is like a tabletop game brought to life. Just that boundless creativity. Rangers up next. This was the class I played through in my first ever playthrough. Swarm Keeper is added here. The Swarm Keeper subclass provides Rangers with 3 kinds of deadly swarms to assist them in combat. The Cloud of Jellyfish deals extra lightning damage, potentially shocking your enemy. The Flurry of Moths deals psychic damage, giving you the potential to blind your enemy. And the Legion of Bees deals piercing damage and forces the enemy to make a strength saving throw or be knocked back 15 feet. Each swarm also has the ability to provide you with teleportation capabilities. That last part is really good because I really think the Ranger is, of course, about keeping distance, but also is about the Ranger maintaining high ground, right? Getting that advantage, making sure that you don't whiff on a 95% chance attack that can land, because that happens all the time to me in Baldur's Gate 3 for whatever reason. That 5% chance just kicks in for me like clockwork, but nonetheless, you want to get any advantage you can get, so managing to teleport, secure that high ground, really good stuff there. And then there's the Rogue. This is what I mentioned at the start of the video. Swashbuckler. This Rogue subclass introduces a new range of actions to fit for the pirate life. Play dirty by tossing sand at enemies to blind them, flick your weapon at a target to disarm them, or your new fancy footwork passive while meleeing your enemy to ensure they can't make opportunity attacks against you for the rest of the turn, which is really good, by the way, really underrated there, because those opportunity attacks, like, we've all been there in that moment where you're playing Baldur's Gate 3 and you know you need to make a move to get closer to another enemy or to just position yourself different for the rest of the battle, and you're like, I'm going to provoke a lot of opportunity attacks here. Do I pretty much run through the gauntlet? Like, I think of that episode of SpongeBob where they're sprinting through the perfume store. It's like, do you just take that risk to get to the other side or not? So to be able to shut that down is really good. We also have the Sorcerer here with Shadow Magic. As a Shadow Magic Sorcerer, you deal in a form of magic that makes you the deadliest in darkness. This subclass gives its Sorcerer superior dark vision, as well as the ability to shadow walk between places of dim light or darkness. It also allows you to call forth the perfectly homebrewed Hound of Ill Omen to harass your foes and use Strength of the Grave to prevent you from being down, ideal for those attempting honor mode run. Little hint, hint, nudge, nudge from Larian there, hey, you're struggling with honor mode. Kudos to all of you who have attempted this. I do not have the guts. I've watched a fellow YouTuber of mine, Wolfheart FPS, who does a lot of Baldur's Gate stuff, go for it, and it's just like, there's just some people on another level, man. And so I just look at that, I'm like, I'm just going to stick to my role-playing and my dialogue enjoyment and my ability to save scum even, but cool to see that they're thinking of the honor mode players here with the sorcerer. Then there's the warlock with Hexblade. Hexblade warlocks make a pact with an entity from the Shadowfell that manifests it in the form of magical weapons. Curse your enemies and force their souls to do your bidding. Slay any enemy that isn't generally an element of nature, construct, giant blob, or already dead, and you'll be able to raise their spirit from their corpse for 10 turns. This new summon can deal necrotic damage and rip away a chunk of your enemy's soul to provide your Hexblade Warlock with healing. So as long as this enemy does not resist necrotic damage, you got some really good sustain on the Warlock. And then lastly is the Wizard Blade Singing. I just love this term here. The Blade Singing subclass merges swordplay with wizardry. Expect new spellcasting animations when casting spells with your weapon. A new Blade Song ability to grant you supernatural speed, agility, and focus. Plus, gives you a bonus to any Constitution saving throw you make. So this is kind of doing the reverse of what was happening with the fighter, right? The fighter's getting more ranged options. Now the wizard's getting more close range options here. So Larian just trying to provide flexibility in how you want to approach no matter what class you're playing. So those are all the new subclasses, which is ridiculous. And then on top of that, I'm not going to lose my mind over this, but I know it's important to a lot of people. Photo mode is being added. They have camera settings, lens settings. Below this, they showed stickers and frames, so you can set all of that up for yourself if you do care about that sort of thing. I do not have an infatuation with photo mode, so I don't have too much interesting things to say on it, but it's cool. It's here. It's cool. People get to share their experience and the funny things they want to show off or the cool things they want to show off as they go through their playthrough. I know, again, this is one of those things that's way more important to others than it is to me. So it's cool to see it's in the game as part of the game's supposedly final patch. But that is it for Baldur's Gate 3 patch 8. A lot here, man. A lot here. And just, hey, if this really is truly, which it seems like it is, I only tease, but again, you never really know, I feel, with Larian, but if this truly is the final patch for Baldur's Gate 3, I mean, obviously, round of applause, the base game spoke for itself, but I think it was a little more buggy than people gave it credit for until patch 5 rolled around and really stabilized things a lot. But you have here one of the most reactive games. It was totally fine as is. They continue to stick with it, continue to add more and more content to it in the epilogue, different endings, different romance options, new subclasses. Now, this really feels like a proper goodbye to the game that reminds me a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 2.0, where it kind of felt like, okay, we're there now. We delivered on everything we wanted to, and then some. We're happy with this, and we're going to move on now and focus on these other things, because I am very curious of what Larian's going to do next. I still think the next thing they're going to work on is going to be some sort of Divinity Original Sin game. I think they're going to take that money and dump it into that and give that like a proper sort of Baldur's Gate 3 treatment at the end of the day. But I'm also curious what a second studio may be working on. I mean, look, the studio head did say at one point that it was Arcanum, it was Fallout, and it was Baldur's Gate. These were the 3 IP that he was willing to work on. And I'm just saying, Bethesda, pick up the phone, give this man Fallout. But I digress. Don't get me started, right? Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you here today. Let me know your thoughts on patch 8 for Baldur's Gate 3 down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.